Welcome everybody to the 8th of hopefully many Degenesis lore drop videos. First of all, thank you to the new subscribers. Welcome to this channel. Thank you to the kind commenters as always. As you can see, this video is a little shorter than the Aries and the Chernobog one because first of all, I decided to not do a deep dive into all the topics that have to do with Normal Thorn because that would have taken too long, and I've also, have this bad habit of starting new projects before the other ones are finished, but that just means that there's a new project coming, and it is Degenesis related, and in good old Six More Vodka fashion, I'm gonna tease it here, and there will be more videos, lore drop videos, about the topics that are only mentioned in this one. Now I'm going to apologize for my nasal hay fever voice during the video. I hope you'll like it anyway. Like, comment, and subscribe, people. Before the Eschaton, the Recombination Group was the leading corporation in the medicinal market, conducting research in different fields like cryostasis and nanotechnology. Several medicinal and technological breakthroughs were achieved by the company. The Recombination Group also developed a cure for the HIV or hive virus that caused a pandemic in the year 2065, which devastated the African continent and captured public attention so that the news of several asteroids heading towards Earth was widely ignored. Recombination Group's board member Normal Thorn appeared as a whistleblower during these chaotic times and revealed that the production of the serum to cure the hive virus was taking much longer than expected because of a secret Recombination Group project called Project Tannhäuser. After leaking the news about Project Tannhäuser, Normal Thorn fled to Africa, where he was last seen in Cairo. Journalists uncovered that Thorn found shelter among the so-called Anubis Syndicate, a group of scientists that dedicated their research to uncovering the secrets of life after death. Then, the Eschaton came. After Normal Thorn's disappearance in Cairo, Recombination Group board member and head of fundings for Project Tannhäuser, Viktor Karmanov, tried to reach out to his former colleague. A stream message from Viktor Karmanov can be found in the Primal Punk book, in which the head of fundings of Project Tannhäuser aggressively tries to get Normal Thorn to respond to him. The reason for Karmanov reaching out to Thorn was not only his disappearance, but also purchases Normal Thorn made with RG funds after he became a whistleblower. The message from Karmanov lists these purchases of high-tech medicinal supplies and materials that give reason for the assumption that Thorn focused on nanite-related research after joining the Anubis Syndicate, potentially trying to find his own way of surviving the Eschaton and beyond. The Anubis Syndicate seems to have been opposing Jerome Gatrell and his attempts at memetically programming the masses before the Eschaton. The Apocalyptics chapter of Primal Punk contains a stream mail from a source called Amit, in which they warn about Gatrell's manipulation and urge the readers not to watch Gatrell's streamcasts. Amit is a rank in the Anubian cult that evolved after the Eschaton and which most probably is connected to the Anubis Syndicate and Norman Thorn himself. Not much is known about Thorn's activities during his time on the Recombination Group's board, but from the little information that we do know, we can gather that Norman Thorn acted as somewhat of a fixer for the company, at least on some occasions. Norman Thorn is mentioned in the stream conversation between Viktor Karmanov and the woman known as Y, in which they talk about a terrorist attack in London committed by the apocalyptic sect and probably orchestrated by Y, who functioned as the sect's leader. A member of the sect is said to have claimed responsibility for the attack, and it is mentioned that Norman Thorn was sent out to take care of the careless member of the sect. Thorn was also sent after the self-proclaimed prophet Muhammad, who disappeared in Mecca. Whether Thorn was supposed to bring Muhammad back to the RG headquarters or kill him is not entirely clear. From the second transmission of Muhammad, we know that Muhammad was, like Thorn, last seen in Cairo. Whatever happened with the two former members of the Recombination Group's board is not known, but some conclusions may be drawn from the facts that we do know. From a document shown in the second Justitian book Moloch, which contains a conversation between Jerome Gatrell and Admiral Barstuff about the Free Spirit program, we learn that Norman Thorn was responsible for the creation of the Hive virus. Apparently, the virus was released by the Recombination Group to distract the public from the corporation's efforts to create Project Tannhäuser, as well as the impending apocalypse of the Eschaton. This fact paints a picture of Norman Thorn and the entire Recombination Group that makes them look even more ruthless. We can only speculate what made the former RG board member leave the company and leak the information about the project, which he protected by causing the death of millions. It might have been regret, or, as is the case for the other marauders, Thorn might be driven by revenge for Jerome Gatrell's betrayal. Usually at some point I reveal the true identity of the marauder as a former RG board member, but in Thorn's case, we don't know anything about his marauder persona, and it is not even entirely clear if he can be counted as a marauder at all. But if he is one, he definitely has a special place among the former RG board members. In 2022, Six More Vodka, the company behind Degenesis, released this picture titled Agathopoeia to their Facebook page. It shows a complex geometric structure with a multitude of references to characters, dates, regions, and concepts from the Degenesis metaplot. The names of the 6 known marauders, Gusev, Aspera, Argyre, Chernobog, Arius, and Tricklaw, are arranged around the structure in the middle of the picture, while Thorn's name can be found in the lower center, within a triangle floating above the symbol for the Africa region. Just like the other marauders, Thorn's name was complemented with a subtitle. In Thorn's case, this is the Jackal. The intricacies of the Agathopoeia picture go far beyond Norman Thorn alone, and, as so often, deserve their own video. What we can conclude so far is that Thorn's disappearance in Cairo, him finding refuge in the Anubis Syndicate, the subtitle The Jackal, and the position of his name in the structure all hint at a significant connection between Normal Thorn and the region of Africa, and especially a connection to the Anubian cult. And there is even more evidence to support this connection. The first Degenesis book, Primal Punk, begins with the so-called Prophecy of the Jackal, a cryptic and poetic text filled with numerology and secrets. The developers of the game have said that the Prophecy of the Jackal contains the Degenesis metaplot in a nutshell, and speculation about it deserves its own video. But since the prophecy is literally called the Prophecy of the Jackal, originated from Cairo, and is somewhat of a secret holy text to the upper echelons of the Anubian cult, it is pretty reasonable to assume that Normal Thorn had something to do with the prophecy and might have even written it. Cairo is also the place where another thread of the metaplot leads us: Homo Geantis. Since this is the Normal Thorn video, I will keep that can of worms closed for now, to open it for another video that will focus on the Anubians, the Spitalians, the Psychovores, Discordants, the Earth Chakras, and Normal Thorn's potential role in all of it. There is another source in the Catharsis book linking at least the name Thorn to Africa. The Shabath are a people of hunters traveling the coastal cities of the African continent, showcasing bestial curiosities and monstrosities they've captured in the Psychovore fields of Africa. The Psychovores are strange plants that have bloomed from the Doroba crater in Africa and have spread across the continent towards the north. These enigmatic plants, with their hexagonal leaves, are in fact very dangerous, feared and avoided by most, and are only used for medicinal purposes by the Anubians. In the past, the Shabath have been led by an elder called Magame Thorn, who, according to legend, could hear the Psychovores talk and was able to answer them. The jungle made way for her. The European name Thorn, appearing in a community in Central Africa, is hardly a coincidence, and the peculiar connection to the Psychovores some of the Shabath seem to have, again, points towards a connection between the Anubian cult and Normal Thorn. Another incident that is most probably related to Thorn is the appearance of the Jackal in the Black Atlantic adventure. In the megalith field near Kanak, different people like Anabaptists, Ganorites, Apocalyptics, and Bretonni shamans have been seeing visions of a seven-eyed jackal with a crown floating over his head. Its belly is bloated after gorging on the dead, and he vomits the 4 rivers of paradise, also mentioned in the prophecy of the jackal. The megalith field is also the place where the Anubian Imbali resurrects the Anabaptist Baringa, and where the characters share a collective vision of the jackal and the ram, which I talked about in the Arius video. I will come back to Imbali and Baringa in another video. Let's just say The two leave after the adventure, and their destination is also Cairo. Lastly, I want to point to the potential connection between Jahamet and Normal Thorn. Both disappeared in Cairo, and both openly opposed Jerome Gatrell and Project Tannhäuser. The two men are also connected by Zeno Blackheart, the Anabaptist's Acheron, who after cannibalizing an Arianoi was ravaged by visions, clearly connected to the prophecy of the Jackal. Since we know that Arius's or Jahamet's memories can be transferred into other people's minds through the silver milk, we have a pretty clear connection between Jahamet and Normal Thorn. This connection, however, is still shrouded in mystery. In conclusion, I can say that Normal Thorn is one of the most fascinating and probably the most mysterious of the Marauders, seemingly following an entirely different game plan than the others. You'll hear more about him in the future. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I did the character justice, even though I did not include Homogeantes, as you probably have noticed. But that video is coming for sure. Open questions? Yeah, I have some, maybe too many. That's why I would rather like to focus on your questions and answer them. And I also would like to pose the following challenge. Say the word agathopoeia 10 times in a row. Can you do it? I couldn't, but I had to, because I fucked it up so often. Well, people, new stuff is happening in the Degenesis world. We have new short stories. We get new reveals for Clan Wars all the time. Do check that out. And also check out the podcast Echoes of Ashaton if you haven't. It's great. And now, have a great one.